G'day legends, I hope that you're well. I had another video planned for today because you can still hear I'm not super well in my voice. But YouTube again is just taking anything I try and do down. Really good video with a guy, a foreign fighter who went to Ukraine and fought, a Marine who was injured fairly severely, and his whole story from there. So that's what is coming up soon. I just might need to make some tweaks because, you know, old, I don't even, it's not Zuck, but the Silicon Valley guys don't really like me that much. But look, before we talk about some other things as well as some corruption and the German tanks mainly, let's talk about the front line of what's happened. I can't find any maps to back this up, but all the Ukrainian sources are saying that they repelled an attack in the south, down near Zaporizhzhia, in this region here, over the last 24 or 48 hours. Now we're just skipping forward through the days, 21st, 22nd, 23rd. You can see just down the bottom of Orikhiv, Russia might have made some ground, but might have been pushed back as well. Orikhiv is somewhere where I've filmed a few videos on the ground there too, and I can't believe that city is still standing. Even when I was there 6 months ago, that was under unbelievably heavy attack, and it's a credit that that's still there and that there's a, you know, main sort of central position there as well with the hospital. Now people will say, oh, you know, that's giving away information. Trust me, that's known because they are sort of directly targeting that hospital as well. And doctors there, like, they know we're here. They know they shouldn't be firing on this with the Red Crosses. And it's happening either way. Orikhiv can be crazy. But we'll move back up. I'm not sure when I exactly did my last map video, but we'll start from the 18th of January and come forward to today, which in Australia is the 23rd of January. So we're in this area, Bakhmut, Soledar. This is where we've seen the most sort of movement of that front line and the most fierce fighting. So on the 18th, 19th, we can look up the north here near Soledar. The gains being made by Russia, and then pushing the 22nd, 23rd past Soledar further. And the danger here is that Bakhmut, as you can see on the south and north moving, that Bakhmut gets somewhat surrounded or cut off from supply, then giving Russia, you know, entry into Kramatorsk or even potentially cutting off up here in Seversk. And you know, that front line lengthening or collapsing. Will we see that happen? I think that we will see Bakhmut either have a tactical withdrawal from the Ukrainians or be surrounded at some point in the near future, not days, maybe not even a week, but I think with the gains made there that Ukraine may fall back to a better position to defend that or go back on the offensive once things change a little bit, maybe with Western vehicles, maybe not, we'll see. Now, what I really wanted to talk about today was these vehicles and Germany getting thrown under the bus a little bit. Now, Germany just today has said if Poland do want to supply the vehicles, that they won't go against that. Now, I won't believe it until I've heard it from Scholz from Germany, but they have said that if Poland was to supply them, they wouldn't block it. The German minister says Berlin will not oppose delivery of Polish Leopard tanks to Ukraine. For the moment, the question has not been asked. But if we were asked, we would not stand in the way, German foreign minister has said. But again, if it's not from Scholz's mouth, I won't believe it. But there is a chance that we will start seeing German-made Polish tanks then roll on into Ukraine. And the Polish Prime Minister said Europe will win this war with Germany or not. Germany should not weaken or sabotage other countries' activities. And I think that Germany is actually copping it a little bit here. The question needs to be asked, and I think there was a journalist put this together. Germany is not weakening in the class when it comes to arms supply to Ukraine. It is all framed that way. Germany is being put in a bad light, particularly with the British media. Look at the British are only sending 14 Challenger tanks themselves. That is symbolic politics, and I believe that, and I've said that on many videos, that across the Western world, they have thousands upon thousands of tanks, Abrams, hundreds of Challengers, hundreds of Leopards, hundreds of all these other types, and it is perfectly summarised as symbolic politics. It's a bit rough of America to sort of, you know, dig the knife into Germany when they're not willing to send their own. And 14 Challengers, well, come on, it's a drop in the ocean. It's sort of pissing in the wind. You don't hear this about Americans. They don't deliver don't deliver powerful Abrams either, not to mention relatively limited military aid from the French. And that's something that I thought, I have some idea about tanks. I'll have a look into that. And one of the funny things that we haven't seen is, why isn't France copping shit about not supplying tanks? They've supplied the wheeled non-tanks that everyone praised the French for, but you do realise that French have homemade tanks. Homemade's the wrong word, but at least state-made Leclerc tanks are a very incredibly high-end, capable, modern main battle tank in the same realm of the Challengers, the Leopards, the Abrams. They're, at the end of the day, those tanks are all that good. It's down to the crew. One has this and one has that. Doesn't matter. It's down to the crews. So where's people getting stuck in the French for not supplying the Leclerc? Where is people getting stuck into the Italians for not supplying the Ariete main battle tank that's made in Italy? Well, is the Italian main battle tank, where's that? I think that these are questions that need to be asked before you throw the third largest supplier of stuff to Ukraine. You try and throw them under the bus. I think the question first needs to be asked of, well, these other countries can as well. And I'm not saying Germany shouldn't, but I'm saying it shouldn't just all eyes on Germany and should, throw them under it and say that they're the bad guys and they're the reason this won't happen. President Zelensky of Ukraine has had to dismiss his deputy minister on corruption and fraud. And we've spoken in length, people don't like to hear it, but one of Ukraine's biggest issues, both before the war, after the war, regardless of the war, has been corruption. And Zelensky has called Deputy Minister of Infrastructure and Communities Development. His dismissal signal to all whose behaviour violates the principle of justice. The Cabinet Minister's dismissal of Deputy Minister of Infrastructure and Communities Development, Vasyl Loversky, has been detained and accused of receiving a $400,000 bribe, reportedly for generators and other critical infrastructure stuff. And this is not an isolated case. We saw early in the year President Zelensky have to lay off a whole bunch of public servants due to corruption and bribes and this and that. And I've spoken in many regards that this war will see different faces. We have the war of facing the enemy of Russia currently, but when that disappears, the next wave that will have to be a real fight for Ukraine will be getting rid of this corruption and, stripping out these people at the top all through who just believe to rot this country and do this is unbelievable. And to think that if you're the Deputy Minister of Infrastructure, where Ukraine's infrastructure is being destroyed by the Russians, and you've taken a $500,000 bribe, it's just unbelievable. And sadly, this is not an isolated case, and that is from Ukrainian sources as well. So we don't really know the full extent of it. Something else that is interesting today is another round of recruitment from Russian prisoners into Wagner Group. Now, Wagner Group is the private military contracting that is working in this sort of Bakhmut front where we've talked about. And, there's been at least thousands to potentially 10,000 of these guys die. And a lot of these have been recruited from prisons and have been even supplied with very high-end equipment, but also from people I've spoken to being used as absolute cannon fodder. But this is economically, at least financially, a good move if you don't give a shit about human life. Recruiting from prisons is a win-win in many ways. It is not cheap to incarcerate someone. Not only are you paying for them while they're incarcerated, but then they're not earning money, they're not part of your effort. There's a lot of measures to make sure people aren't incarcerated in a lot of countries where, Russia, what they need is they need men and they need money. That's how you win wars. And if you can, go to prisons and either force or have people volunteer to come and fight, I guess, if you take away all signs of, caring about that human life or the war or whatever, that is a decent decision to make. I've spoken before about the Afghanistan soldiers and the Special Forces commandos from there who were trained by the West, by us, being recruited into Russian forces, and I don't blame these guys. We pulled out of Afghan, let the Taliban run over, and these guys are going to be either beheaded and their family killed, or they join Russia and potentially go for citizenship. It's very hard. And according to pro-Wagner PMC groups online, Yevgeny Prigozhin met with some of our groups saying, "Our cause is just, and the guys who will watch this should not be afraid. You'll fight not for something there, but for your children, for families, and for the motherland." And look, I think that's about it for today. But I just want to thank you guys very much. And if you'd like to, continue supporting me, there's all the stuff at the bottom. But otherwise, I've just got to get my health back on track and look after myself. But cheers, and I'll speak to you guys soon. Okay, bye-bye.